So let's talk about measurement error. There's a couple different types of measurement error. One is systemic error. That's when the information we collect consistently reflects a false picture due to the way we collect the data. So it's not that there's something wrong with the data, but there's something wrong with the way we collected it, and so therefore it's not giving us the right picture. So some of these examples could be people don't always do what they say. So if we're measuring what they say and not what they do, we could be collecting a false picture. So I might ask you in a survey a question, and they're telling you what they would like to do or what they think might be right, but not necessarily what they do. Biases occur because people want to look good, and they want you to think that they're answering in a way they think you want to hear. So when you're writing questions up, you want to keep that in mind. Will this question make somebody answer in a biased way because they want to look good? Also, questions can favor a particular group. So you want to think about your question when you're answering it. Is it leading? When someone's reading your question, do they think there's an obvious right answer and then they answer that way, even though they don't think that way? So think about those when you're writing up your questions. Random error. Random error has no consistent patterns or effects. So it's not a bias in our measurement. It's just something that makes it inconsistent. So we have less control over random error. So ways to avoid measurement error. Use unbiased words. So when people are reading your questionnaire, an unbiased word would be something that isn't obvious what the answer is you're looking for. Use terms that the people who are answering your questionnaire will understand. If they don't understand what you're saying, they'll just guess, and then you'll have measurement error. Obtain feedback to spot biases. So after you write a questionnaire, have other people look at it and take the questionnaire and see what they think of it. Ask them if they think there's biases in there. Was something tricky? Did they understand everything? Test the questionnaire before using it. Test it out on your colleagues. If you're not the only one doing the interviewing, train your interviewers so that everybody asks the questions the same way to everyone. Triangulation. This is 3 different methods to collect the same information. So if we observe somebody do something, if we ask them what they do, and maybe we ask their partner what they do. Those are 3 different ways to collect the same information, and ideally we'll get the same responses from all different ways. Then we'll know it's not bias. And then the last one is to make sure tools have acceptable reliability and validity. And these are statistical tests that people do on questionnaires and these tools to make sure that they don't have measurement error. So reliability. The definition of reliability is getting the same results each time you use the instrument on the same group. So if I use it this week and I get a result, and I use it next week on the same group and I should get the same result, then I have reliability. So reliability means getting the same results each time you use the instrument on the same group. And just in case we're wondering, a survey or a questionnaire would be an instrument. That's what we mean by an instrument. Okay, ways to create reliability. Only ask things that your respondents are able to answer. Again, if they don't know how to answer your question, if it's not a topic they're familiar with, they'll guess. And next week they might guess something different. Only ask things that are relevant to them. If it's not important to them, they may just guess again, and then next week they might guess something different. Be clear in your questions. Train your interviewers or your coders. Coding is after you've collected your data, how you're looking at your data. Replication. So do it several times. See if you get the same thing. And then use the measures that are found to be reliable. When somebody creates a measure, they'll usually do a study on it and do the statistics on it to see if it's what the reliability is, and then they'll publish an article. So if you're looking for a survey or a questionnaire to use in your study, you can Google it and find one. There's books at the library that lists tools. There's also websites that list tools, and they should all show the reliability, the alpha coefficient, and you want it to be higher than a 0.7. Okay, so you look for the article or the description of it, and it should include the reliability coefficient. So there's a couple different types of reliability. There's inter-observer or inter-relator reliability. They're the same thing. So if I'm looking at something and my colleague Sam is looking at something, and we're counting how many times somebody does an activity, we're both doing it, then we should be able to run a correlation, a Pearson's correlation statistic between the two of us, and they should be very similar, right? We should get the same results. There's test-retest. That means we measure something over time. We want it to be stable. If I measure it now and I measure it next week, I should have the same results. There's internal consistency. That's when we look at the items that make up the measure. So when I look at all the different questions that make up the survey, I should be able to split it in half. Let's say that each question is asked twice, but in a different kind of way. So we're asking the same, trying to get the same information two different ways in a different way, and we cut it in half, and we should be able to run statistics and get the same results in the first half as in the second half. So the second time they ask the question, they should give the same kind of answer. Validity. Validity means, are you measuring what you think you're measuring? So are you measuring what you think you're measuring? There's different types of validity. Face validity is just, are you looking at it and does it look like you're measuring what you think you're measuring? If I look at the questionnaire and I'm measuring poverty, are there questions about income and hunger and things that we associate with poverty, right? That has the least amount of validity. There's content validity. Are all of the elements or concepts represented in this tool? So if we decide that there's 3 different elements of poverty, are they all in that tool? Criterion-related validity is how well the measure reflects external concepts. For example, when you take a written driver's test, it's supposed to measure how well you might be able to drive, right? This external concept of driving. We're asking these questions about road signs and speed, and those are supposed to be able to reflect how well you drive. Construct validity is how your measure relates to other theoretical expectations. So how well our survey relates to, if we're doing a depression survey, the theory of depression, of what we know about depression, how well our survey associates with that. Factorial validity is when we have different constructs that we're measuring. Let's say we're measuring let's say we're going to go back and measure poverty, and we've decided poverty has to do with income, poverty has to do with hunger, poverty has to do with housing. So those are 3 different constructs we're looking at, and our questions should all have to do with those 3 ideas, and they should group up under those 3 ideas, right? So that's factorial validity. Okay, we're going to talk about creating our questionnaires. A Likert scale, you've seen these many times, you might not know what it's called. A Likert scale is when there are different options to choose from one like opposite to the other. So if I say, how well do you agree with the statement, This has been a really warm summer. I strongly agree, I agree, I'm neutral, I disagree, and I strongly disagree. That's a Likert scale when I have the different options from one end of the spectrum to the other, right? Usually it's a 5 or a 7 Likert scale. There should always be a neutral in the middle. In case I don't have any thoughts about it, we don't want to force them to choose I like it or I don't like it if we don't really care about it. Okay, open-ended and closed-ended questions. Closed-ended question is when there's just one word answer, yes or no. Do you think it's hot out this summer? It has been hot out this summer. That's closed-ended, yes or no. If I ask, how would you describe the weather this summer? Well, then I can answer in any way I want. That's an open-ended question. Okay, so those are two different kinds of questions. You want to avoid a double-barreled question. That's a question that really has two questions in it at once. So you want to divide it up and you want to ask questions that have only a single answer to them. No more than one question in a sentence. Your questions should be relevant. Let's not ask things that people don't know about. Short. People never want to do more than 15 minutes on a survey, and even that's pushing it. People get bored and they start to skip questions and just mark answers that they haven't really thought about. And then negatively stated items can be misinterpreted. So you want to state your questions in a positive way instead of a negative way. Otherwise, they might question what you're asking. Okay, so you can ask the same question either positive or negatively, but we want to choose to ask it positively. Okay, so we also want to avoid our own biases. We want to be culturally sensitive when we're asking questions, and we want to avoid contingency questions. Contingency questions are, if you agree with me, did you did you like the blue or the green better? Well, the first thing is you have to agree with me, right? So there's a lot of times you'll see a survey and it'll say, what is your, are you older than 18? If yes, go on to the next question. If no, skip the next 5 questions and answer question 75. Those are contingency questions where whether or not you answer the following question depends on how you answered the first one. Those can be tricky for people, and sometimes they lose their place and they don't answer properly. So you want to try to avoid those.